Hello everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arafire and welcome back to another episode of Look Out and Shout. So yeah, it's been a week and a day, shall we say, to my last video. Had to take a little bit of time just to reset my head, clear my head, get things into perspective. And it's important to do that every so often just to make sure you don't overload yourself with tasks and responsibilities. So anyway, we're back now. Let's get on with a review. So today we are going to be reviewing Cang Toys CT01 CHIYOU-01 Ferocious, their take on a masterpiece Generation 1 Predacon Rampage. So this has been out a little while, it's fair to say, and you might have seen it in the background before. You may have seen it on some of my collection tours as done as well. I was going to do one of my massive combiner videos when Predacon, the Cang Toys Predacon, is all said and done. But there's 8 bots in the combiner set, so it's going to be an incredibly long video and probably another year until it is finished. So maybe worth getting through all of these in the here and now, particularly with a few other ones being released shortly. So having a look at said box, it's not that big compared to some of their more later offerings, but it's a nice box nevertheless. We got some very funky, glary artwork to it of what Rampage would look like in both modes, and it is a very stylized version. This whole set is not G1 inspired. For those of you who have heard me talk about Cang Toys before, it's just really a route they're not going down. They are not interested in G1. They are much more Zoids inspired, if any of you know that. The box itself, the presentation, is lovely as boxes go. Look at this lovely black polystyrene foam. And taking it out, you really can tell this is housed to perfection, with good reason. So I've taken the accessories out. We'll have a quick look at some of them first. So first off, we come to the instructions. Don't worry, we'll need that. He also comes with his weapon, which, as you can possibly tell, is just a curved blade, a big one at that, which he will hold on to at the bottom. Now, this is going to form part of Predacon's full-on sword come the end of it. I like that. I do like the fact that all of these weapons combine to make a super weapon for the combiner and then can detach as you detach the combiner. I think Unique Toys did that with their Predacons. Certainly a Predacons combiner did that. And you can make a super gun out of other guns or super sword out of other sharp objects. It possibly looks a bit funny on its own, maybe a bit bland on its own, but it's not really made with the individual weapon in mind. It's thinking of the bigger picture. He also comes with his gun, which can tuck back as well. I think we're led to believe that this could ultimately form Predacon's weapon as well, but maybe still a bit too early days on that to know for absolute sure. But it's a very chunky gun, maybe a bit too chunky for the limbs of the bot, but I'll show you that a bit closer. And finally, the hand of Predacon. Now, this is just one that it comes with, and it's a very articulated hand, very hefty. Individual fingers, poses as well, some knuckle dusters as well, for some nice spikes as well. Now, what is good about this is other figures will come with other combining parts that they put on. Parts forming, yes, I suppose. But when I think it's their version of Dive Bomb will come with the other hand, you can put 2 of them together and actually make a crab to get this kind of weapon storage, but again, keeping with the animal theme. Nothing's going to waste here. You don't just have a set of hands lying around. You're actually going to make a little 8-legged crustacean crawling around, which is quite good. Under the sea. But right, let's get in for a closer look, shall we? And here he is in his beast mode, and he's a big boy. Struggled to get him on a turntable. You can really see the jagged designs that they're going for here, and it's not to say it's wrong by any means. It's very Zoid inspired, it's very mechanical inspired. There's not really a beast here. I actually personally quite like that. I like the fact this is kind of what a Cybertronian beast would look like. It's not trying to blend in with Earth's creatures by any means, and this is a very much a robotic panther or tiger, depending how you view Rampage. It looks really good. It is actually very much full of die-cast. You can see these bits around here at the back of the body. There's a lot of weight to the figure, and it actually balances really well. I'm not the biggest fan of the feet, to be perfectly honest. I think they look like massive cat shoes, and I know why it's there. It's to balance weight in both modes, and there's a lot of weight there, and the tolerances are absolutely fine. But they do look like they stand out a little bit. They don't exactly blend in with the ankles, shall we say. The tail is maybe a little bit on the short side, but I'm being picky. The colours are lovely. The red is very much metallic red and does pop, but you do need strong light on it to pop. It's quite a cherry red, and you need to get a lot of light on it to really get that metallic sheen. But let's get in for a closer look. So with this figure, it comes with a lot of light piping. A lot of the Cang Toys figures do. And again, I find that a little bit of a problem because there's not really any way to get the light through the eyes. Trouble is with light piping is when there's no light on the eyes, they can look quite dead. I actually find the same with the mouth, to be honest. There's no like solid hole to it, and Fans Toys have that same problem. It's just continuous red throughout. But I love the saber-tooth design to it, the big claws to it. I do think this has a lot of character to it. It has a lot of presence. I have noticed as well there's a bit of tolerance issues. Now, I've had this figure a while and it was second-hand, so that's just something that's I've come across since posing the figure. I'll have to tighten it up with some polish, of course. But the ratchets are really good. This is ultimately going to make up his arms, so there's a lot of strength in there. And obviously this has got combined mode in mind. But it cleans up really, really well. Again, that's a bit of a floppy joint. But otherwise, it's really good. It does exactly what it needs to, I suppose. It is just not exactly G1 inspired. So if you want a G1 inspired Rampage, this is not the one for you. But it's not to say it's a bad figure by any means. I love the colour scheme. I love the orange, the yellow. It's quite a soft yellow as well. But it's enough to break it out and nothing swamps the other. The red is the dominant colour, and yet it doesn't override the figure. And this is just to show you some of the weapon storage that he comes with. He can hold his massive gun on his back and actually look quite threatening on the battlefield. And scale is going to be tricky with these guys. They are a masterpiece, but this is the closest thing I've got to another beast that really the Predacons will go up against, and you can see how far back I had to come. This is him alongside Geiger Power's Superator, their version of Grimlock. And I've always loved the fact that the Dinobots and the Predacons could go up against one another, and we haven't seen all that much of it. But yeah, this is how the two look side by side. And of course his personal army, here he is alongside Fans Toys Sovereign, their version of Galvatron, how the Predacons really were Galvatron's war pets. Right, let's get him transformed up, shall we? And here he is in his robot mode, and it is a good transformation actually. There are bits that you have to push in a little bit harder, and there are very much tight, squeaky joints. It's hard to say they're tolerance issues, but they do concern me a little bit. But there's things about this with the transformation that it does really well. The legs are a bit of a pain, as most transforming legs are. You've got to really push in some tight joints, and it has to compact right from beast mode into robot mode. But there's little things that this figure does that I really do like. The transformation of the claws, for example, on the feet, the paws I should say, they just literally turn around and these front bit fold down, and there you've got the feet. And they're very well proportioned. The ankle tolerances are actually really good. The paws at the back here, the front claws, actually clip into the back of the forearm, so they're not going to flop down on you. It's just little things like that that work. But then there's other things that go against it. This little bit of the back of the neck here that forms the back of the neck in beast mode is just kind of floating around. The tail just kind of floats around. Actually, in the instructions, it just tells you to have the tail hanging down, which I think looks rubbish personally. It's actually quite a straightforward transformation, and if you've done these sort of figures before, anything going from a four-legged creature to a two-legged creature, you generally know how things are going to go. Back of the legs of the back of the beast mode will form the legs of the robot mode, and generally they'll compact within, and the arms will cascade in as well for the front legs into the top of the arms. So no real surprises here. You can see as well Cang Toys really going in for the light piping. There's a lot of light piping throughout this figure, even on the back of the claws, which I can't really understand why, but it's something that they're going down. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's there, and it's a route they're going down. But anyway, let's take a closer look. So again, straight away, as soon as I bring him up to the camera, you can see the light piping in full effect. It is actually a good looking figure. I was never taken with that head sculpt. I know it's very much how he looked in the cartoon, that kind of rectangular long faceplate, and it was, well, it wasn't orange, it wasn't yellow, it was the same colour as his face, if I recall. I just don't think it's an attractive head, and I think it's a shame, because I think the rest of the body actually looks really good. I love how the tiger head forms a chest, as it should. I even like the fact that it's quite skinny in proportion. There's a slenderness to this figure that if he is a lion or a tiger, or he's not a lion, is he? He's a tiger or a panther, some sort of fast-running creature, that you want him to be slender in this mode. There's a striker pose about him. But you can see again the ratchets working in full effect, but you heard there, you can hear the squeak. There is a real they're definite toughness to this. And it's not going to break on you. I don't think anything of this says it's going to break on me, but it doesn't make me feel calm either. And I think that's a real shame. Posability is really good. You get good rotation because, of course, it's got to be posable in a four-legged animal mode. So naturally, it kind of banks you posability in robot mode as well. And here he is holding his weapons of choice with the massive gun and the massive sword. The sword actually does look quite good. It's very Final Fantasy style, the oversized sword, very hunter-gatherer. I do think the gun's possibly a bit too big, but this is probably with Predacons' gun in mind. But that's what he looks like with his weapons. And there he is defending his master alongside Cang Toys' Sovereign. And you can see, even with the squatting poses and the poses that you can get him in, he still stands quite tall to a Cang Toys model, a true masterpiece range. So what are my final thoughts on Ferocious, or their version of Rampage? Well, as a first offering, this is where I'm a little bit interested as to who Cang Toys actually are. And is this an existing design that's been kicked down the road? Is this Toy World by another name? Is this Zeta by the other name? We have seen that Zeta have threatened to do a Predacon before now. They did put up a design that's never come to pass. Zeta's combiners are very good. Then Zeta got into a bit of trouble. Now Mune Studios is around. So I wonder if this is a Zeta design, but it doesn't feel like a Zeta build. Zeta doesn't go for this much diecast. There is a lot of diecast here. There is a lot of good paint. It feels very high end, and you are paying a lot of money for this. I mean, I got this one second hand, and I'm not unhappy with it at all, but they aren't cheap. So it doesn't quite feel like a Zeta, because the Zeta individual limbs don't cost all that much, comparatively speaking. So I would be interested to know how long this design has been in production for. But if we are to believe that Cang Toys is fresh and designed this fresh, then as a first offering, this is really good. It's not perfect, it's certainly not going for a G1 look, and that will lose them some fans. But if you're going to say from the ground up, does this look like a very cool tiger, panther, or whatever? Yes, it does. Is it painted beautifully? Yes, it is. Does it have tolerance issues? No, the tightness is a problem. The squeaky joints that you have heard, that is a problem. You don't feel like stuff is going to break, but at the same time, it doesn't give you that degree of reassurance. What I have noticed as well, and I've had this figure for a while, one of these legs, that's this one, is a little bit on the loose side on that hip joint at the back. Now, I could probably tighten it up with some polish, which will probably tighten up the joint nicely, and it's not going to buckle, but that's just something I've known. Maybe there's a bit of wear over time with this. Good offering for the first run. I think that's important to point out, is that this figure's been out for at least a year by now, if not more. They will make advancements and have made advancements since. By the time the last figure comes out, which will be their version of Rhino, Ramhorn, Stronghorn, why do I always forget his name? By the time we get from the start to finish, there could be stark differences, and we'll see that when I do a combiner video at the end. But based on this, for the first offering of Cang Toys, I give this 3 Rodimus Star Badges. I think the colours look very good. I think there are times that the red looks a little bit dead. Whilst it does have a metallic-y sheen to it, you really do need a strong light on it to make it pop. And if you haven't got the perfect light on it, it can look a little bit too lifeless. I do think the big feet are a little bit off-putting for me. I thought that at the start, to be honest. That's the style they're going for. It takes some weight, I suppose, but they do just look like massive shoes. But I do like it. I'm a big fan of the Predacons, as some of you will know, so I'm really looking forward to just get a masterpiece scale Predacon with such die cast. I hope he stands up really well. So yeah, as a first offering, 3 Rodimus Star Badges. Will be improvements, I'm sure of that to come. I will say the robot mode probably does let me down a little bit. I'm not a fan of the face sculpt. It is similar to the Generation 1 cartoon, but I just think the face sculpt looks a little bit boring, and some latter offerings look a little bit more as we remember them. But there we go, that is my review of Cang Toys Ferocious, their version of a masterpiece Rampage. Thanks for watching, don't forget to like, share and hit that subscribe button, because I will see you on the next one.